Talks of payments to the vice president of the refereeing committee dating way back, Bartomeu's name being brought up once again, and an investigation into Barça. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. Hello and welcome to Rabona TV. I'm Adrian, thanks for coming by, and if at any point you find yourself enjoying this video, then go ahead and drop a like for us, or if you're new and you really liked this video, subscribe for more. Let's get into what this scandal is, what La Liga has said about punishments, Barca's statement, and more. Sources are linked below for you to check out if you wish, if you want to dive deeper. Let's go. First of all, this is a judicial investigation by Barcelona prosecutors. It isn't an investigation by La Liga, nor is it by the Spanish Football Association, aka RFEF. If they are to be found guilty, then all of the sporting associations, such as the Spanish Football Association and the High Council for Sports, will get involved. As far as I can find, the Spanish FA has opened an investigation through their integrity department, as noted by The Athletic's Paul Balos, but the sources that he spoke to said, quote, "It's out of our hands until the judicial process is over." This is to paint a picture for you of just who is investigating Barcelona, so let me repeat it here. The sporting bodies like the Spanish Football Association and the High Council for Sport, etc., are all waiting on the judicial investigation by the Barcelona prosecutor's office to conclude. Once that has been completed, if there is any reason for the sporting bodies to get involved, which would mean there are criminal charges against the club, then they will do so. What the Barcelona prosecutor's office are investigating are payments from FC Barcelona to a company called Daznil 95. Daznil 95 is a company owned by an individual named Jose Maria Enriquez Negrera. He's a former referee who from 2016 to 2018 was the vice president of the Spanish Referees Committee. Now, the reason as to how this all came to light, the radio station Cadena Ser got hold of information from the investigation. They claim that Negrera, and in turn Daznil 95, is being investigated due to the payments they received that were flagged as irregular between 2016 and 2018. Payments received from FC Barcelona in those 3 years consecutively. 532,728 euros in 2016, 541,752 euros in 2017, and 318,200 euros in 2018. How these payments were flagged is due to Negrera not providing tax authorities with documentation that he and his company had provided FC Barcelona with a service. So yes, as he and his company were audited, that 1.3 million euros of payments without documentation will have brought major attention to all of this. Guys, document everything. Your life will be easier come tax time. Otherwise, you'll be seen as suspicious, and you'll have some unwanted explaining to do. Bartomeu actually spoke to Cadena Ser, and he said that the payments were indeed made to Daznil 95, but that they had to stop them in 2018 as Barcelona had to cut costs here and there. He also said that these payments were made as far back as 2003 as well, though the president from that time, Joan Gaspart, claims he doesn't know anything about these payments. However, Bartomeu is adamant that there are records of the payments going back to 2003, that when Laporta took over back then, he continued to hire the refereeing services from the former referees company, as did Bartomeu when he took over. Of course, it's important to remember that Negrera was only part of the refereeing committee from 2016 to 2018, not at the times being spoken of prior, and he had retired from refereeing in 1992. Bartomeu maintains that the services rendered were nothing out of the ordinary, saying, quote, "It is completely false and absurd to think that we paid off any referees. We have nothing to hide. The reports exist. They were delivered to both the first team and Barça B before each game to provide information about the referee that was in charge. The coaches and players appreciated them. If we had been able to influence the referees, they would not have disallowed a goal on the last day of the season against Atletico that gave them the league title. It is absurd to think that." And I could give more examples. Bartomeu also said that they most commonly would meet with Negrera's son, Javier Enriquez Romero, and that they hardly even had any contact with his father, Negrera, as he was the owner of the company while his son ran it. Now, Barcelona has released a statement, and Joan Laporta has also spoken and said many of the same things. So let's just go ahead and just cover what Laporta had to say, because it was far more palatable than the written statement from the club. Quote, "After the information which has appeared in Cadena Ser, it has to be said that Barcelona in the past had contracted the services of an external consultant for reports on players from youth categories of the Spanish state. Along with this same external consultant gave refereeing advice, which is very usual at the big clubs, as has always been done. Indeed, we have this refereeing advice in-house now. In the club's organization chart, it's in the Department of Football with full normality. The news surprises me. It's not a coincidence that it's come out now. I want to communicate that any tendentious interpretation that insinuates things that are not right will receive a proportional and adequate response from the club. So we reserve all the actions we need to defend Barcelona's honor and its interests." So Laporta does not deny that Barcelona had acquired the services of Negreira's company in the past, though he stands firmly in saying that this is nothing new in professional football, that it's not new for teams to hire referees to get advice from them. However, and remember I linked to his article below for you to read yourself, but Polis from The Athletic points out that Laporta is right and even gives examples of Real Madrid and Getafe having former referees in their ranks previously and even in the present. But Barcelona's case is unique in that it was the first time where a club was actually paying a referee that was still active, and not only that he was any old referee, but remember, he was the vice president of the referee committee at that time. Also, if you've been listening attentively, then you will have already noticed this, but the payments from Barcelona to Daznil ended in 2018, the same year that Negreira left his post as the vice president of the referee committee. So on Wednesday, the Spanish Referee Committee, or CTA as we'll call them, also responded, and their statement was pretty cold. It read, quote, "The committee wants to make clear that Mr. Enriquez Negreira has not belonged to any federative structure of the FA since the change of board that took place in 2018. No active referee or member of the CTA bodies may carry out any work that is likely to constitute a conflict of interest. The CTA is making itself available to authorities to offer its full collaboration with any type of information it can provide." There's one line in there that doesn't look good for all parties. No active referee or member of the CTA bodies may carry out any work that is likely to constitute a conflict of interest. As far as what other former referees have been saying, Juan Andujar Oliver seems to look at this as very embarrassing, as he says that it's very serious and how it smears the reputation of fellow referees like himself, who he says are all honest. However, another referee named Eduardo Iturralde Gonzalez has said that he doesn't think there was any influence from Negreira and that the investigation will prove as much. Now, what a lot of people are wondering is whether there will be any sort of sporting punishment for Barcelona or what have you. But as a reminder, none of the sporting bodies, including La Liga, will do anything at the moment because they, like all of us, like me and you, are all waiting for the Barcelona prosecutor's office to deliver a verdict on what they find. Javier Tebas, the head of La Liga, has even released a statement, the most prominent aspect of it reading, quote, "It is impossible for there to be sporting sanctions. The statute of limitations would have expired. Another thing is criminal proceedings or a corruption offense between private individuals. We have to wait for the public prosecutor's office. If there is a complaint, we will have to appear. Ethically and aesthetically, this cannot happen in Spanish football." And finally, let's say that the investigation finds that these payments are fishy. Will Barcelona be punished somehow? Well, the problem here is that it will be very difficult to prove that Barcelona will have received any favoritism from referees, unless there are blatant calls that the referee has gotten completely wrong on a consistent basis between 2016 and 2018, ghost penalties, red cards that are completely unjust, stuff like that. And if those prosecuting Barcelona can prove that, then they could face punishment. But the issue here is that it's difficult to prove favoritism during that period from 2016 to 2018. So if you ask me, and this is just my uneducated guess, I'd say that any sort of sporting sanctions against Barcelona are pretty unlikely. Again, I don't know anything though. I'm just coming to a conclusion based on what I've read. So who knows? Take that with a grain of salt, or even less so. Another part of it is that this is an ongoing investigation, so more news could come to light in the future that changes the opinion of myself and others that know more. And speaking of which, this is a good time to end this here. I hope that this was helpful for you. It's not insane in depth, but it's a good look at the investigation and the information that you need to know about. And as per usual, the sources are listed below in case you want to dive deeper. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm Adrian, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.